So how do I?
It's like Rabba is here. How you doing, Rabba?
I'm doing okay. Thank you very much, Ron.
Welcome. Thank you for attending.
I'm curious to learn. I'm always learning.
Yeah. Even though you've got all that engineering knowledge in you, you still have desire to learn more, right?
Oh yeah, engineering is just one part of in my brain. I have another part of the brain. I have to fill it with something else, right?
There you go.
There's always space in the brain. You know, I don't know why people don't learn. Don't want to learn more.
How did this happen here? What are we doing now?
I'm sharing my screen.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi.
So this is you, Scott, right?
Yeah, the Meetup screen.
Yeah.
So I can see each of you by going up and looking at in the right-hand corner. The viewing options are for me. So when I look at my computer, I see my screen on the computer, but I also see each of you
Right.
in a little windows off to the side.
So do I.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's about a little bit after 1 minute after 7. So can you pull up, or can I get this back?
Yeah, so I'm gonna do stop share, and then you share it. You do share again. There we go.
Okay,
So-
so then I need to go down to, I want to record. Okay. So then, Chris, are you here? Chris Boyd? That must be his phantom thing because he's the,
I think you're logged in as him, right? So I think he's automatically quote unquote here.
so then I just need to go here to share, click on here. So we'll get started. Does everybody see the agenda?
Yep.
Yeah.
So Scott Moshinsky, who is in the Champaign area with the McKinley Club, has been gracious to help us out this evening to educate us more than what we are right now. Hopefully after our 30 or 40 minutes that we're here, we're going to know more about Meetup than when we started. When I made my last presentation at the DEC meeting, which is the District Executive Council, I said, I don't think we're going to win the Super Bowl this year with social media, but we might gain a few yards and maybe we'll win a game or two. But that's what my approach has been, is to kind of share the wealth with people like Scott to the rest of the group. And hopefully that'll help us get more members in all of our clubs. But Scott put this agenda together for me, for us, basically, and this is what he's going to follow to go through the meeting and then end up with questions. I am on a paid, Chris Boyd gave me his, rights to use his paid Zoom meeting. And so consequently, we can go past 40 minutes if we need to. But I'd like to at least keep this to an hour if we can. But if it's less than that, that's okay too, because we don't have a lot of participants. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing, correct, Scott?
Yep.
And then Scott will take the lead here and take off. And at the end, I'll say a few more words and then we'll call it a night. So thank you for joining us, everyone.
Sure.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Can everyone hear me and see,
Yep.
see my screen?
Yeah.
Good evening. Yeah, good evening. We can hear you.
Okay, very good. Just to get a kind of a baseline here, how many of you are familiar or currently use Meetup?
I've heard of it, but I haven't used it.
Okay, great. So that's what we'll start from. If you look at your screen, you should be able to see the Meetup page.
Yeah.
On your screen.
Yeah.
Okay, and the address for that is just simply meetup.com. And this is the screen that anybody gets when they just type in meetup.com. You notice I'm not logged in. Up at the top right, it gives me a chance to start a new group, log in, or sign up.
Yeah.
The first thing on the agenda is why do we use Meetup, or what is Meetup and why we use it. I think Meetup does a good job of describing themselves and why they use it. So Meetup, I click on the About thing on the very bottom, and you see that Meetup is a platform for finding and building local communities. People use Meetup to meet new people, learn new things, find support, get out of their comfort zones, and pursue their passions together. So there's other platforms we can use, Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all those others, and they all have serve a purpose. But for attracting brand new members to our clubs, members who are people who are just out in the general community and may not know about Toastmasters or ever hear about Toastmasters, Meetup is really a good format to introduce Toastmasters to people who may have never heard of Toastmasters before. And if I scroll down the Meetup page, you'll see a bunch of information about Meetup, how it works, what you can do, discover groups, start groups. So if I'm someone I am someone in Champaign and I want to get out and do stuff, I go to the Meetup site, meetup.com, and again, without logging in or anything, I can go to that search in the middle there and I can find my next event. So you'll notice that right under that, it says events near Champaign, Illinois. So obviously my computer knows that it's in Champaign, and Meetup, which is on my computer, knows that I'm in Champaign, Illinois. So let's say that I want to do something. I want to get out and do something in Champaign. I can search any term I want in here. And in fact, if I scroll down on this page, you can see I can search for events in different categories. All those different categories that Meetup suggests. But if I know I want to do Toastmasters, let's say I want to do public speaking. I want to get out and find a club for public speaking. I just type that in. I click search. And in my area, in Champaign, this is what comes up. So we see State Farm has an event coming up tomorrow. Toast of Champaign has an event coming up tomorrow.
Hey, Scott,
yes.
let me interrupt for a minute. If you don't have your microphone on mute, please put it on mute while Scott is talking. Get some background noise with clanging of dishes and things of that nature. So if you could just put your microphone on mute, we'd appreciate it. And Les, at the end, we'll have an opportunity to ask questions and that. Thank you.
Right, exactly. Okay, thank you. So we scroll down and we see all the events that are being hosted in Champaign area tomorrow and in the upcoming days for my search of public speaking. Again, you can type in any terms you want and it'll bring up things in your area. And that's the key component of Meetup, is that it shows things in the area that you're at. So things like Facebook and Twitter, that's really for reaching out to the entire world, if you want to talk to the entire world. Whereas Meetup attracts people looking for things specifically in whatever area you're in. So I want to talk a little bit about terminology from Meetup, because it can be a little bit confusing, but it's important to keep the terminology and the terms that Meetup uses straight. And as Ron said, there'll be plenty of time for questions, and I'll give you my contact information afterwards if we get a little confused on it. So it can be a little confusing, but it's important to keep it straight. So the terminology I want to discuss is there's an account, and that's setting up a Meetup account in Meetup to use Meetup and to be able to set up groups and everything else. So there's an account, and then within an account there's groups. So think of Meetup as the account, and all these things for the events, for example, those are different groups within Meetup. Then we have an account holder. That's just the person who owns the account, who sets up the account, who uses the account. Under the account holder, you have an organizer. An organizer is any Meetup person, anyone who has a Meetup account who sets up a group. That person is the organizer of that group. Then there's the co-organizer. The co-organizer, each group can have any number of co-organizers, and the co-organizers are members of that group. Then the last term is member. A member is anyone who has a Meetup account, who has set up a Meetup account. You become a member. So a person can be a member and a co-organizer and an organizer and the account holder, but the account holder isn't necessarily a co-organizer, for example, or an organizer. And we'll get into how this plays out in just a minute here as we get more into Meetup. So again, this is the homepage that I'm looking for of Meetup that I'm looking at, and I'm searching for events in my area. I picked public speaking. That is what came up. I'm just going to go back to the Meetup homepage. The very first step in using Meetup is to become a member of Meetup. And to become a member, it doesn't cost anything to be a member of Meetup. Just start with saying that. And so if you want to become a member of Meetup, you go up to the upper right and you'll see start a new group, you'll see login, and you'll see sign up. So if I had never had interacted with Meetup before, I would go to sign up. I would click on that, and you see it gives me options. I can just use my Facebook account to upload all the information to Meetup. I can use my Google account, or I can sign up with an email. I recommend signing up with an email and keeping everything separate, keeping Facebook separate and Google separate. And if you've never used Meetup before, just create a brand new account, sign up with an email address. So I'm going to take that route by just signing up with an email. And you'll see I get this screen. Again, it does give you the option of continuing with Facebook or with Google, but for our purposes, I would create a whole brand new account not attached to anything. Now, the first field in there is your name. And where this becomes important is, it depends on how you're going to use Meetup. If all you're going to do is be a member of Meetup and look for events in your area and attend events in your area, then I would use whatever personal name you want to be known by on Meetup. I can type anything I want in there. I can type my name, I can type Scott M, I can type Jimmy Hoffa, I can type Acme Power Company, I can make up any name that I want. It doesn't, Meetup doesn't really care what you call yourself. So if on a personal level, if you're using Meetup just for your own personal use, type in whatever name you want to be known by when you create this account. If you're going to use Meetup in the capacity of Toastmasters, then I would create a name that identifies you as a Toastmaster representative, as it were, and something that is all-encompassing, and it will attract people to your account, as it were. Right now, what we're doing is setting up an account. We're not setting up a group, we're setting up an account. So for example, in here in Champaign, we have 3 clubs that are using the same Meetup account. So when we set up this account for our Toastmasters clubs, we named the account Champagne Toastmasters. So I would type in Champagne Toastmasters, and that would be quote unquote your name. We do that because it's generic enough for people to not associate this account with a specific group, but it's specific enough to know that this is Toastmaster groups in Champaign. The email address that we use, again, if it's, you see my personal email address because I've got a personal account already, but for example, for our Champaign Toastmasters, the 3 clubs that are under this account, we picked one office to be in charge of the account. So McKinley Toastmasters, which is the club that I belong to, for example, decided that they would monitor the account and administer the account. So for the email address for these 3 clubs for under the Champaign Toastmasters account, we use the Champaign President email address. So this email address that you see up there now, that's the generic address for the president of McKinley Toastmasters, who is a specific person, but that person changes every year when there's a new president. But even though that person changes, the email address is always going to be that, and that will always be the email address for our Champaign Toastmaster account. And then the password is whatever you want the password to be. So you just create your own password. You'll see underneath there, it shows that the location is Champaign, Illinois. And if I wanted to change that, I would just click change, and then it would give you the opportunity to switch to whatever location you're at. Once I click that, I don't think it's going to, so I'm going to actually go through the next step, and I'm going to change this so because I've already got a Champaign Toastmaster club, but I'm going to add an S there, and that, let's see what happens here. I'm not sure. It might say that there's already an email address for that account. Yeah. So it already says there's an email address for that account. So I'm just going to go back to Meetup. So that's how you would create an account. And like I said, if you're going to do it for your personal use, you're going to create up an individual account for you. If you're going to do a club account or a master account for Champaign Toastmaster, for your Toastmasters groups, then I would use a generic name that covers all 3 of them. Regardless, it doesn't matter what that name is, it's all up to you. But whose ever email address or whatever email address that account is assigned to that account, that is the email of the person running the account. So I'm back at the generic Meetup homepage, and since I've already established accounts, one for me personally and one for our Champaign Toastmasters group, I'm going to just log in. Okay, so I'm going to log in, and you'll see that when I log in, there's 2 things I can put in the email address for my login. I can either use the president467@toastmastersclubs.org, or I can log into my personal account, which has the email address that you see on your screen. If you're going to administer a group for your Toastmasters club, you'll have to create a personal account for you, all right? Because the president thing is going to change every year, and depending on who you want to administer the clubs, the groups in Meetup will determine, what personal account you need. So if you're going to be the person who does the Meetup, or whoever decides to do the Meetup administration should create their own personal account as well as the account for the Toastmasters organization. So I'm going to log into my President 467 at Toastmasters Club. The password is there, and I'm going to log in. All right, so this page is showing the events that we have coming up. We have a meeting tonight. It shows that it shows all upcoming events, the saved events, groups and suggestions, groups only, your events. It shows this is our next event. It gives us a search bar to search for things going on, in my case, in 50 miles of Champaign. So once I'm in this as Mr. Champaign Toastmasters, as it were. This isn't my personal account. This is what I see when I use the login for the Toastmasters account. If I go to over here to the little down area by the little profile picture, I click on that, and what it shows is all the different clubs and all the different groups that I've set up under Champaign Toastmasters accounts, if that makes sense. So under the Champaign Toastmasters account, there's a group for Fireside Toastmasters, there's a group for McKinley Toastmasters, and there's a group for Toast of Champaign Toastmasters. These are the groups that are in our area and that use this account for their meetup purposes. Once I'm in my account, I can start a new group, or once I'm in the Champaign Toastmasters account, I can start a new group. So I'm going to click up there and start a new meetup group. It'll say Meetup Pro. That's more designed for businesses, so we don't really want Meetup Pro. We want to keep this as inexpensive as possible. So not now. Oh, okay, so I know why it's doing this. Okay, so you'll notice on this screen, when I clicked on Start a New Group, I get this screen. And you'll notice on this screen it says you've reached your maximum number of meetup groups. Both our basic and unlimited plans allow you to organize 3 meetup groups. To create more, that's when you would use Meetup Pro. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to log out of my Champaign Toastmasters accounts. And I'm going to log in to my personal account. Okay, so now you'll see the profile picture up in the upper right-hand corner turned into a picture of me. That's my personal profile picture. I'm now in my personal Meetup account. And so if I go to the little drop-down area again, these are all the groups that I'm a member of. These aren't groups that I started. These are groups that I'm a member of. And to be just a Meetup member, when I create my personal account, I become a Meetup member. To become a Meetup member, I can do anything. I can join any group I want or any number of groups in Meetup, and it doesn't cost anything. It doesn't cost anything to be a Meetup member. It only costs to start groups in Meetup. So you'll see that I'm a member of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different groups. So I can click down here and I can see all my groups. Okay, so you'll see that I'm a member of all these groups. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't cost me anything to join these groups. And if I want to join a group, I'm just going to go to my search bar, and I can search all the groups or under any of these categories within 50 miles of Champaign, Illinois, because the computer recognizes that's where I am. So let's say I wanted to search, see if there's any events or any groups in my area for food and drink. So it's going to show me all the things, the groups in Champaign within 50 miles of Champaign who have a group based on food and drink. You'll also notice that when you do a search, Meetup is always going to throw up a suggested group, and it'll say start this group. So to make it a little clear, I'm going to search for Toastmasters. Again, I'm searching this as in my personal account. And when I search for Toastmasters, all these groups come up. So there's the McKinley Toastmasters of Champaign, Illinois. There is Four Seasons Toastmasters. There's Fireside. There's State Farm. And you'll see that there's two Firesides. This is an older Meetup group that was started a long time ago that won't be there. But what you'll also see is the Champaign Toastmasters Meetup group. This isn't an actual group. You see up there it says start this group. And that can be kind of confusing because when you search for a group, no matter what the category is, Meetup is always going to throw this little suggestion in here. But this is not an actual group in existence. This is Meetup saying, hey, maybe you should start this group. But you'll see that there's the other Toastmasters clubs that do have official groups. And to join a group, all I would do is, let's say I wanted to join Four Seasons Toastmasters. I would click on that group. It would come up, and I would just click on join this group. But I don't want to join that group. What we're talking about really is starting a new group. So within my account, let's wait till Meetup catches up. Let's go to my homepage. Bear with me a second. Meetup's struggling a little bit. Okay, so I'm back on the Meetup homepage for my personal account. That's my little profile picture up there. And I want to start a new group. So I can start a group for whatever I want to start. If you want to start your Champaign Toastmasters, if you want to start your Toastmasters groups through your personal account, you can do that. I wouldn't recommend it, but it's possible. But I want to start a new group in Champaign that I am going to administer personally. So I click on start a new group, and the screen comes up. We'll walk you through a few steps to build your local community. I click on get started as soon as it catches up. And it'll give you the chance to set your group's location. Again, this is the nice thing about Meetup is that you're going to set the location so people in your area are going to be searching this. You're not really going to get people from outside of your area finding your group. And that's a problem with things like Facebook. People all over the world search that, or when Meetup groups are set up on the district level or the area level, it expands the people who will see it and who will search for it, and it gives them kind of the wrong idea of where the club actually is located. So for me, the group's location would be Champaign, Illinois. If I wanted to change that, I could just click on that. I click next. And I choose a few topics that describe my group's interest. These are going to be the keywords that people can search for when they're looking for Meetup groups. And you'll see that Meetup tells you the categories or the keywords that you can look for. So if I was creating a Toastmasters group, I might do community organizations. I might do, I click on show more. Show more. Come on, show more. I click on more, show more. I get more chances. I don't see any of those that are there, so I'm going to click on show more.
You actually had a fear of public speaking option on the previous screen.
What's that? I'm sorry?
On the previous screen, there was a fear of public speaking option.
Okay, it'll come back. I missed that one. I'll come back. It'll come back. It'll cycle through and come back to it. Self-empowerment might be one. Family friendly, if you want to do family friendly. Hand crowd, line dance. But you'll see if you just keep clicking on show more that Meetup will suggest the categories that are available for you to use as your keywords. And you can keep clicking show more and it'll keep bringing up more and more, and it'll eventually get back to the beginning of the list. The list isn't infinite, but there are quite a few different categories and keywords that you can choose from.
Scott, can you put like communication in where it says search for topics? Does that?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point, right? Thank you. So I can type in communication.
Can't find any.
Communication, but I can, let's do public speaking. Okay, so here's a whole bunch of them. Art of public speaking, fear of public speaking, any of those. And if, in fact, I think if I type in Toastmasters, I believe there's enough groups. Yeah, see, if I type in Toastmasters, there's there's a bunch of them. You want to be careful because evidently meet interesting people through Apex Toastmasters. Even evidently Apex Toastmasters has created their own keyword that might come up. But anyway, you can come through and, you know, the more related categories that you pick, the better off the chance that people have of finding you. And you can see up here, it says you can pick up to 15 topics. So I'm just going to pick those 4 for now in the interest of time, and I'm going to click on next. And here is what will your group's name be. So now, again, we're in my personal account, or even if I was back in my Champagne Toastmasters account, I can name my group any name I want to give it. So this is where we specified which club we were setting the group up for. So in our case, one of them was McKinley Toastmasters Club. You might want to make it even a little bit more specific as we did. So not just McKinley Toastmaster Club, but McKinley Toastmaster Club of Champaign, Illinois. So I'm gonna, again, you can name it whatever you want. You want it to be specific enough so people know what they're looking at. I click next. And then you get to this, now describe what your group will be about. And it says people will see when we promote your group, but you'll be able to add to it later as well. So it tells you what is the purpose of this group, who should join, what will you do at your events. I'm guessing most of you or most of your clubs already have a kind of lead in, a set verbiage and what's the word I'm looking for? A set kind of hook to get people to join. So the purpose of the group could be anything. You must write at least 50 characters. You can add to it later, but something like this group is for people who have a fear of public speaking. This group is for people. Okay. The more information that you can give people at this point, the better it is. And example, they give you example. So I do that, I click next. You review their guidelines. You can read about the community guidelines. You can agree and continue. Now, once you agree and continue, this is where they're going to ask you for money because you've now created a group. You can see what they're offering currently. Pay monthly, pay every 6 months. Under either end of these options that you choose, pay monthly or pay every 6 months, you can get up to 3 groups under that account, and each group can have up to 50 members. And remember, this is just, Meetup is just the way of reaching out to the community and finding new members to our clubs. This isn't our club website. This isn't our club Facebook page. This isn't our club anything. It's just a way, a group to attract new members from the community who don't know about us yet. You'll see once you pick the subscription you want, payment information. For us, for Toastmasters, that's why we use a generic Toastmasters account instead of my personal account for our Toastmasters groups, because I don't want to be taking this out of my personal account to pay for the Toastmaster Club Meetup group. So what we did, if I would have logged back into the Champaign Toastmasters account, the name on the card I would have is whatever payment method your club has for purchasing things. That way it's not assigned to any individual person. No one's personally responsible for it, but the club is responsible for it. So if your club has a bank account for the club, you would use the information from that account to pay for your meetup groups for the Toastmasters clubs that you have. The account holder is a single person or a single entity, so we decided McKinley Toastmasters was going to be the account holder for the Toastmasters clubs in Champaign. So I don't know what our information is for the club, but it's the club name on whatever the bank account, whatever name's on the bank account. It's the club's bank account card number. It's the club's expiration date and year. It's the club zip code. And then I would confirm the subscription. Now the way we do it, because there's this amount is due today, the $69.26 is due today, and that's for 6 months. What we do is McKinley goes ahead and pays that bill, and then the other 2 clubs, the Fireside Club and the Toast of Champagne Club, will send McKinley Club directly payment for their portion. So that $69.26 for us is divided up between 3 separate Toastmasters clubs, and a person from each of those clubs just sends us a check or transfers the money from their club account into our club account to pay for their portion. Okay, so once I would click confirm and subscription, I'm not going to because this is my personal account, then the whole process would start, and whatever email address is used for that account, that's the email address that's going to get all the communications going forward. So who's ever setting up the Meetup account wants to make sure that they have access or are working with the person who has access to the email address that is the account holder address. I know it gets kind of confusing. So if I go ahead and log out of here, and I'm going to log back into the Toastmasters account with that email address for the Toastmasters general account, and I started the new group and I went through that whole process. After I clicked submit, then now that President 467 at Toastmasters.org is going to get all the emails as long as I created the group under that account. And like I said, it gets kind of confusing between the personal and the the club accounts, but it's very important to keep those two things straight. Let's see. Now, once I've created those accounts, so I'm back in the Champagne Toastmasters account. And if I go up to the little profile, you'll see those are the three, again, those are the three groups I've created under the Fireside Toastmasters of Champagne account. Now, I don't administer all three of those groups. I administer the McKinley Toastmasters one because that's the club I'm in. I'm also the VP of PR for the McKinley Toastmasters clubs, and the three clubs that you see up there decided that the VP of PR was going to be the person who administers the meetup group for each individual club.
Hey, Scott.
Yes.
We have someone who's raised their hand in the virtual meeting.
Okay.
Yes. Actually, I wanted, if you have a moment, to repeat your statement regarding of the process of signing up, setting up two other groups. So what I understand so far that you mentioned that you have to set up each new group from your personal account. Am I correct? Can you please repeat it one more time?
Sure. No, yes. If you, from your personal account, only set up groups that you yourself are going to use personally. If you're setting up Toastmasters groups for your clubs,
Yeah.
set it up from your club account.
Okay.
So our club account is Champagne Toastmasters. And those are the three groups that you see on my screen are the groups that we've set up under the Champagne Toastmasters account. The example that I just gave, I had to create it from my own account because 3 is the limit that you can set up without having to pay more money to Meetup. And we've already have the 3 groups under the Champagne Toastmasters account. So I just did it under my personal account as an example of how to set up a group.
Thank you.
Okay?
Mhm.
So under the Champagne Toastmasters general account, I've set up the 3 groups, and you see them there on your screen. And from here, I can administer the groups. So when members of the community are out there looking for groups to join, they're going to see something called Champagne Toast. They're going to see these 3 different groups if they search for Toastmasters and Champagne, and members of the community is going to be able to join any of those groups, but they're not, what they won't see and what they won't join is the generic account for Champagne Toastmasters. I see it because I'm in here and I can start new groups from here if I had less than 3. But the general public does not see this group because this isn't a group right now that we're looking at. It's an account that we're looking at.
Makes sense.
Okay. So if I go down to here, if I want to see groups under this account, I'm going to click on McKinley Toastmasters. And here's the McKinley Toastmaster group. So this is what people will see when they're searching for Toastmasters in Champagne. They see the location. We currently have 12 members. It's organized by Champagne Toastmasters. So because whoever the account holder is, and it can be a generic name, once a group is created, that person, quote unquote person, becomes the organizer of the group created under that account. So even though this group, McKinley Toastmasters, is organized by Champagne Toastmasters, and if I go down here and look at the members list, you'll see that one of the members is this entity. It's not it's a person, it's me, but it's not really me. It's the Champagne Toastmasters account, okay? And so that's gonna stay the same after I'm gone or after the president is gone or whoever replaces us, they'll still be able to log in and they will still be Champagne Toastmasters. That's where it gets kind of confusing. So because I set up this group under the Champagne Toastmasters general account, a member is Champagne Toastmasters, but again, that's a generic person of who's ever filling the role of administering the groups. Now, so when people search and they find McKinley Toastmasters, they're going to click on that little join thing. So in order for me personally, me, Scott Mashinsky, the VP of PR of McKinley Toastmasters, to administer this group and do the things for the club, what I did was I joined McKinley as me, as my personal account, okay? So this account you see down here, right now, kind of technically, I'm logged in as two different people. I'm logged in as Champagne Toastmasters, as the organizer of this group, and you see my profile here as Scott Mashinsky, just Champagne citizen who joined McKinley Toastmasters group. So right now I'm logged in as the organizer. I'm logged in under the Champagne Toastmasters general account that has those three groups, that has
Scott, Aaliyah, your hand up again.
okay, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to clear this very important question. How do other two groups that you set up from your main account, how do they submit the payments?
Whoever they pick will just send a check or transfer the funds into the McKinley Toastmaster bank account. I don't know if all the clubs have bank accounts set up. However, whatever you use to purchase things for your club, you use that club account, and then the other clubs could just submit a check, or however a person would pay dues for the club. They would do it the same way.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so again,
Scott, every club legally has to have a bank account.
excellent. That makes things a lot easier. So all the transactions that we do for Meetup on behalf of the club, that we use the club bank account information in that one screen where it said to pay the subscription price. And then the other clubs just write us a check. Okay, so we're back in the McKinley Club as the Champagne Toastmaster organizer. And you can see from here, I can find all my members. We've got 12 members so far. The organizer is automatically a member. I joined as a private member, Scott Mashinsky. And what that does is that allows me to be what's called the co-organizer. You can see under me, I'm listed as co-organizer. So as the organizer, logged into this organizer account, I can go into anybody who's joined, and I can go over here and I can change their role. So I'm going to look at Benjamin Sweedler is actually a person who's already a member of our club and has been a member of McKinley Toastmasters for a long time. So if I wanted Ben to be a co-organizer, I would go over here to the three dots. I would click on the three dots. I have choices. I can either remove Ben from the group or I can change the member role. If I wanted to make Ben co-organizer, here's what I could have him do. I could make him co-organizer, I could make him assistant organizer, and I could make him event organizer. Each of these roles is allowed different authorities to do different things. It doesn't help to have a whole bunch of people here. It does help to have whoever is going to do everything, the VP of PR in our case, as the co-organizer. So I'm not going to make Ben co-organizer, but I could, and this is how I would do it. The co-organizer is the actual face of the group. So because Champagne Toastmasters isn't a specific person, that's not really the face of this group. the face of this group is me as the co-organizer. As the co-organizer, I administer the group, but I don't have anything to do with the payments. Nothing is coming out of my personal credit accounts or my bank accounts or anything else like that. I'm just a co-organizer. And what being the co-organizer allows me to do is set up events. And that's the key for using Meetup, is setting up events. And we're going to go through a description of how to set up an event. For us, our events are the meetings, our club meetings. So if I click on events over here, come on. You'll see that upcoming, we have this event tonight. If I click on past, you'll see that on Wednesday, January 8th, we had a club meeting. This is one of our club meeting events. It gives you an opportunity for drafts. It shows you other clubs that are having similar things in your area. It'll show that to your members. So I schedule events one at a time because dates change and locations might change and things come up. So tonight we have this event upcoming. Tonight, this is our meeting. We had this event, and after this meeting is over, anytime after tonight, I'm going to schedule an event for our next club meeting. The first time you set up an event, you're going to go up here where it says create events, and it's going to give you a choice. You can create a new event, or you can copy a past event. If this is your initial event for this group, you're going to obviously have to create a new event. And it's going to give you the menu with everything that it needs. The title of the event, which could be anything you want it to be. You can upload a photo if you want. The date and time, the duration, a description of your event, the location of your event, and you can type in any location and it'll, so if I want to search for a location, I'll just type in a location and you'll see the drop-down menu comes up giving you a bunch of choices. Or you can create your own out of the blue and have whatever location you want. You can have settings with if it's a repeat event, if you just want to repeat the same event over and over again. Like I said, our meeting rooms change fairly frequently, so I don't repeat events, but you can. You can have members
personal experience. Do not do repeat events.
Yeah,
that is how the district Meetup account actually has gotten screwed up, because what ends up happening is future events are built off of whatever template you build here.
Exactly.
And then they can and even though you change something, they will go back to whatever the original template was.
Yep. Yeah, I highly agree with that. I don't create. You'll see after you create the first event, we'll get to that in a minute. We'll address that in a minute, but I agree with that 100%. So you can ask the members a question. You can limit the number of attendees, which I hope nobody's doing. You can allow guests. You can RSVP a start and end time, and you can charge an event fee if you want. Meetup does allow for that, but of course we don't charge an event fee for guests. After you fill in all that information, you can save it as a draft, you can preview it, or you can publish it. So I'm not going to create an event because our events are already created. So I'm going to go back to our homepage for this group. So the nice thing is, once that initial event is created and I want to create our next meeting, I'm going to let it catch up here. All right. So now let's say this event, our meeting for tonight is over. I want to create our next meeting event from the, again, this is not my personal account. This is the Champagne Toastmasters account. I can go into manage. And I can copy event. And if I want to copy the event, I just click on copy event. And you're going to see it's going to fill in all the information. It literally copies it. And all you have to do is go in and change the date, the time. If you want to make any changes to the description or the location, it gives you this nice how to find us box on your location. So you can, ours is in a library. So I added this little thing. Okay, once you're in the library, here's how you get to where we are. And then once you make the changes that you need for your next event, again, you can save it as a draft, you can preview it, or you can go ahead and publish it. So once you've established that first event, which may take a little bit of time, once you've done that, creating future events literally takes a minute. All you do is change the date and time and maybe the location. All right. That's pretty much again, from the Champagne Toastmasters account, I can go in and do these things for all three of these groups that are under this account. I'm only going to focus on McKinley because that's the only one that I'm VP of PR, but it should be noted that who's ever going to access this master account has to have the login email address and the login password. So I'm going to log out of here just to give an example. So if I want to do things for the McKinley Toastmasters group, I'm going to log in. There's two ways I can do it. I can log in. Come on, log in. I can log in under the President 467 email address, but I have to know that password. So in our situation, the President of McKinley knows the password. I know the password, and the two other VPs of PR know the password to get into this account because they're the ones who are going to be setting up the groups for the different clubs. The key with the co-organizer thing is, if once everything is set up and established, if I want to make a change, an event change to any of the groups, I can log in under my personal account. And because I'm co-organizer, so I'm logging in back under my personal account, and because I've been made co-organizer of the McKinley group through my personal account, I can go ahead, go to my McKinley club, no, I don't want to do this. Where did it go? Okay, because I've been made personally as co-organizer of the McKinley Club, now I'm logged in. You see, I'm not co-organizer anymore. I am co-organizer. I'm not the organizer anymore. I'm not logged in as the organizer. I'm logged in as me. I can create an event for this club. And that's because I'm a co-organizer of this specific club. I can't create events even though I'm a member of Fireside, because I'm a member of that, where is it here? I am a member, I'm a club member of Fireside Toastmasters as well. I can go in to see when the next event is, but you'll notice it doesn't give me the opportunity to create an event for this group because I'm not a co-organizer of this group. if I wanted to create an event for this group, if the VP of PR for Fireside said, hey, Scott, can you create an event for Fireside Toastmasters? I could if I logged in using the Champagne Toastmasters account info. I know this is a lot of information and it can get really confusing. I've just tried to touch on basically the basic outlines of how this works. I think that's kind of all I want to cover tonight. So if there's questions, we can certainly ask questions.
Scott, we should maybe take a few questions now, and then I would like to wrap it up.
Yep, sounds good.
Kamal, did you have a question?
Ron, I'm good. I understand the concept of Meetup. It's really nice and it's really good to know new things. It was really good learning. Thanks a lot, Scott, for this learning, and nothing as such. It's basically what we do in our other platforms, more or less. We have to go ahead with those kind of things, and the concept agenda is different. Otherwise, creating your profile and working out in that, it's more or less similar to other things we do on other social media and like LinkedIn. It's more or less same, right?
Yes, it's very similar to LinkedIn. Again, yeah. LinkedIn is kind of business focused, and it's kind of it's available to everyone all over the world. And that's Meetup. The beauty of Meetup is it localizes everything.
Yep, that's a good thing.
Yep.
Any other questions?
So we'll follow up with it, and we'll try to take this in practice.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me give you everyone my contact information.
Well, Alita has another question, Scott.
Okay.
Yes, I have a last question. How do you change organizer?
The organizer doesn't ever change. The organizer is going to be whatever account, when we created the account at the very beginning, the Champaign, Illinois Toastmasters, whenever you create an account, you automatically become the only organizer of whatever groups you create under that account. So because my personal account, we're logged into my personal account right now, I'm not the organizer of any groups because I haven't created any groups of my personal account.
Okay.
Scott, the co-organizer changes from year to year though, doesn't it?
It can, yes.
So, but you can't change organizer.
No, the organizer is the account holder.
Okay. Okay.
And that's why it's that generic email address, like president of, a certain club.
Right.
That is not a correct statement. You can change the organizer. What you have to do is step down as the organizer, and then you have to delegate the organizer role to someone else.
Yes.
They can either accept it or reject it.
Yes.
If they reject it, you have 30 days to find a member of the group who will be the organizer. Yes. Otherwise, the group is dissolved.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So that gets into a kind of messy, complicated situation. That's why we created the generic account for the Toastmasters groups, because as long as the club exists, then the club president in our case, or the generic email that we had for the Toastmasters groups, will always stay the same, unless, as it was just stated, you step down as organizer, in which case your account information goes away too. So if we change Champaign organizers or Champaign Toastmasters organizer, we have to change the club information. The new person who takes over has to submit their financial information to take over the payments of the account. So that's why we just keep it generic for the Toastmasters clubs. So as long as Champaign Toastmasters exists, the money will come from that account. We don't have to look for any other new organizers. It just stays consistent.
I think Noel had a question.
Sure.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. So out of curiosity, I joined in late. I had a choir rehearsal. how many members do you have on your Meetup?
You can have up to 50. So what,
Okay.
the way that, let me just say, the way that we do it is people find us through Meetup, right? And there's a maximum of 50 per group in Meetup. So if someone finds us through Meetup and then comes to one of our meetings and decides to become a member and join, then we can take them off of the Meetup group because they're now a club member. So they don't need Meetup anymore for our meetings. They get the club information.
Okay. Actually, we have a pro account that we share with Lincoln Way and also with New Lenox.
Yep.
And so we have over 50. We actually have around 220, I think. That's what we have right now.
Right.
For our account.
Yep.
But what would you say how much of your new members, or I mean, I guess that you get, is coming from Meetup versus, you know, we found you through Find a Club in Toastmasters, or I Googled you?
90% or higher come through Meetup.
Really? Okay.
Because when you, at the beginning of the meeting, we show all those different keywords that you can select for setting up your groups. And those keywords, up to 15 of them, span a wide range of different interests. So people don't have to be looking specifically for Toastmasters or public speaking. They can be looked for, you know, improve yourself. And the Toastmasters group, as long as we've designated that as a keyword, they're going to find our club.
Scott, how many people would you say come as guests every month from Meetup to your club? And you
we usually get 2 guests on average. We usually get 2 guests every single meeting from Meetup.
And you meet twice a month, correct?
Yes, correct.
We, our club gets somewhere around between 5 to 10 guests. And I would say 2/3 of them get through it through Meetup. But we have an advantage because we're in a highly populated area.
Yeah, sure. Yep. So you mentioned using Meetup Pro. That's certainly an option. It gives you the opportunity to create more groups. It gives you the opportunity to have unlimited members, but it's also more expensive. We, in an effort to try to keep costs down, hang on one second, to keep costs down, don't use the Pro version. And like I said, once somebody joins our club and is a member of our club, they really don't need to be on Meetup anymore. We bring them into the club and have them, you know, they're on our club website and our Facebook group and everything else like that. So that allows you to free up space in your Meetup groups if you want to keep it under 50.
We do keep the cost down because we split it with 2 other clubs.
Yep, so do we.
Because they have their own group. Yeah,
Right,
so that's why the cost is pretty much the same thing as if we were on our own. But now we have a lot of members.
Right. So if you're in an area where you need more groups and you need more members in those groups, that works fine. Luckily here in Champaign, we've got 3 clubs in our area. The Meetup allows for 3 groups, so it just kind of works out perfectly.
I think Alita had one more question. I think we probably want to close this down pretty soon.
Yep.
Alita?
Yes. Is it any way to do blog posts in Meetup?
There's ways you can message members. So you'll see up on top of this group, I can click on messages and I can pick the members I want. If I want to talk to an individual member, and that's what I do every time someone joins Meetup, I'll send them a message as VP. Welcoming them, or I can message the whole group and send them whatever I want.
Yeah, this I know. Just my question was, is it possible to create a blog post for everyone, for all members in the profile of the specific Meetup?
That I don't know. Again, Meetup is mainly to let people know of your events, your club meetings. It's like an invitation for a specific group of people.
So Scott, you want to
Alita, to accomplish what you're looking to do, you can update the Meetup details for the group and put a little blurb about the club there.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's usually the best way to go about that.
Yep.
Thank you.
So Scott, you want to share your contact information? Then if you would have turned it over to me, then I wanted to close, have some closing comments.
Right. So I'll be happy to talk with any of you on a one-on-one basis if you have more questions or want more help with this. My email address is M as in Mary, OCHINSKI, the number 23 at gmail.com. My cell phone number is 312-764-2950. The best way to contact me by phone is by sending me a text. If my phone rings and I don't recognize the number, I'm going to let it go to voicemail. So just by all means, leave a voicemail and I will get back to you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can turn it back over to me, Scott.
Okay, so I'm going to stop share. And there you go.
Okay, so I need a little help here. Can you see this, the agenda?
Nope. I see you.
Okay, hold on. So then I need to go to share here. Okay, now you can see my emails, right?
Yep.
So this is what I wanted to share with you. So this, I think everybody knows we have the new website. It's www.d54tm.com. And on the website, we have this, we have a tab called training. And underneath training, we have, VPPR support information. Actually, it's a tab by itself. It's called VPPR support on the D54 website. But one of the things I like to point out is that I have received agreement from all these people to help us out with all these different platforms that we have here. So if you want help with Meetup, you can see that Scott is here. It should be on here. I put you on here today.
Yep, right there.
Scott right here. There's another gentleman named Tony. I think, Scott, you know him.
Yeah, Tony is actually just let me say, Tony's actually the president of the McKinley Toastmasters Club. Yeah. So likely if I'm still a member of the club, he's just going to say, talk to Scott. But you're more than welcome to contact him.
But here's different people in here that can help you for the different things that we can do with with social media. Jordan is our website person. He is, mostly I would prefer that you would go through me or Chris Boyk to get to Jordan for any kind of request. But I think if you just get to the website, he is the guy that's making all the changes there. I'm actually doing what Andrea Gluck was doing with vertical response. We use vertical response as like Constant Contact or MailChimp, and we use that for distribution of information. Like for this meeting tonight, I've been using MailChimp, and Kristen Kind, who is a member in our district, he's good with MailChimp. You can also contact me, but Eventbrite. So there's different people on here to reach out to. And I would suggest, because some of this stuff gets a little challenging to understand, reach out to, Scott for Meetup, or reach out for like Troy Laporte for if you have questions about the website. So I just wanted to point that out, that this is a resource that's available to us for those of you that are really wanting to use more digital assets to get new members for your clubs. So this is recorded. I'm going to post it out on the D54 website. It'll be under the same tab as the VPPR support, and you can watch it again if you would like. And with that, I'm just going to close it down for the evening. My intent is to have every month a webinar on a different subject. We were supposed to do YouTube tonight, but Patrick had a challenge with the schedule, so I just swapped it out for Meetup. But next month, I think in the second week of February, we're going to have a YouTube channel. If you get a chance, my website, my email address is right here. It's actually, if you go to rcordytm@gmail.com, if you just send me an email, any kind of feedback on what you think we should do to improve these webinars that we're doing, I would appreciate that. And feedback is always good. So with that, I'm going to close it down. Thank you, everybody, for joining tonight, and have a good rest of the evening.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.